everybody, it's Debbie here and welcome back to my Crafty Dan. I have this really cute little Rae Dunn inspired birdhouse with this pretty floral on it. And I think that it will make an amazing piece to decorate with my Rae Dunn collection. My Rae Dunn collection is very tiny at the moment, so yeah, having a few extra pieces to go with it. I mean, this is as cute as can be, and very homemade. You can tell because when I put the chirp on there, I did it with a paintbrush, and it's really not quite straight, but I don't care. It's handmade, and I love it anyway. So if you'd like to see how I created this one and the second one that I'm doing to go with it, then just stay and watch the rest of the video. The first thing I did was chalk paint these two jars, and to get them ready, first I had to find the ideal jar, and for me these two jars were pickle jars, you know, the ones that have the quartered dill pickle spears in them, and they were just the right size because they're short and they're stubby and they're nice and big round. And so I washed them really well. I let them soak in my sink and got the labels off, and then there you just saw me putting a wipe over top of them with rubbing alcohol. And the rubbing alcohol will make sure that you have no grease or oils from your fingers or anything like that on the jar. So once the rubbing alcohol was dry, I just decided that I was going to give these a nice coat of chalk paint. So I'm using my store-bought chalk paint, but the DIY, like your own recipe chalk paint, or dollar store or Walmart or any place that you can find a cheap chalk paint, it will do just as well for these small projects. I'm using what I have on hand, and I'm so happy that I have this chalk paint brush. This brush is so nice. It goes on so good when you're using this. What I'm doing is just dipping the brush into the jar so that just the tips get paint on, and then I'm just, you know, rubbing the brush around a little bit in the lid of the paint jar. So I'm just push that brush down a little bit and work the paint right up into the bristles, and when I do that, it loads this brush up just awesome. Yeah, the coverage for one coat was actually pretty good, but I knew I was going to have to do 2 coats because it's glass. Now, if you had a nice plain wood that didn't have a dark background and you're going over it with a color of the same tone or intensity, 1 coat of this paint would probably cover fine. So when you're doing this, don't forget to paint your lids as well. The whole jar has to be covered. And just a tip, when you're painting your jars, make sure you go up on the rim around the top enough so that the paint is up in underneath the lid, because I had to go back and touch up there. I didn't paint high enough. So you just have to make sure you have everything painted, and then, yeah, let it dry, and it'll be ready for you to do another coat. And it's easy, like so easy. I love chalk painting things. It's just, it gives things new life. Yeah, it just, like, these would have ended up in the garbage, these jars, and now I'm going to have them as a decor piece. And I think just by using chalk paint that's amazing. So once they're dry, while they were drying, actually, I took my napkins. I went through my napkin box and I pulled out a couple of napkins that had some pretty spring type flowers on them. Probably summer flowers, but any flowers feel like spring to me. So especially when there's 3 feet of snow on the ground outside. Oh my gosh, I just feel like this winter is going on and on and on forever. But I don't know if anybody else feels like that, but I could sure do with a couple of weeks down south, I'm telling you. But anyway, I found some napkins and I chose just a couple of little bits of print, and I'm cutting them out. I know I think I cut out 3 or 4 because I wasn't sure which ones that I was going to use. I wanted to make sure I'd have something that looked good and fit the jar. And yeah, so anyway, I cut out a few. But don't forget when you're using Mod Podge to adhere napkins, that you have to separate those napkins down to that very, very final layer. Just the top layer is all you want to use. Otherwise, your napkin may peel after you've got it down. So there you saw me doing that. And I'm just doing this while I'm waiting for that paint to dry. So I have this napkin with the gladiolas on it. These are so pretty. This is my go-to napkin for a floral. I'm telling you, the fact that they have pink and purple and orange glads all on that one sheet is just, one napkin. It's just astounding to me. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do another coat of paint. I've got my little pieces cut. I've got my glue. I've got my Mod Podge right there. So here's a tip. I started brushing up and down on this jar, and what it was, the paint felt dry to the touch, but as I was adding more paint and doing my second coat and I started to brush up and down, I showed you I was loading the paintbrush up really good. I realized that it was re-wetting the paint that was on the first layer, and it had started to slide, and I could see it sliding and kind of causing some wrinkles. Like, I was watching very carefully as I was brushing the paint on, and I thought, this isn't working. So I decided I was just going to take the brush and stipple up and down. So that's what I did. I just took the brush and I stippled up and down and I dabbed the paint on. I didn't want to have to take all the paint off these jars and start over again. And I didn't want to have to wait for them to dry any longer. I mean, it was dry to the touch. But yeah, so that's what I did. I just pounced the paint on. It made it so much easier. And the other thing that it did was it gave the jars, it gave the surface of the paint a really nice finished texture by pouncing the paint on. And then I didn't have any brush strokes at all, which gave the surface of the jars a really, really nice finish. Almost like a really fine pebbled look, which I really like it. So once you have your jars, I'm back today on the second part of this video, and Bethy's here because this is March break, and Bethy is working on her own little craft right here, and she's making one of the bunnies that I made out of the garden stakes last week. But she is doing hers with a pink face and a purple hat. And that just goes to show you how resilient all these crafts are. So I'm turning these jars into birdhouses. And if you've been watching my videos the last few weeks, maybe a month, you know I have become completely obsessed with Rae Dunn. And it's really hard to find for me here. So I'm doing a lot of Rae Dunn inspired crafts. So I have this is just a circle that I'm using as the top of my inhaler. So I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to try to mimic a Rae Dunn birdhouse out of this pickle jar. I'm just going to take my pencil and I am going to, because I can rock this circle around the jar, I am going to rock it back and forth so I can keep it in contact with the surface of the jar and draw a circle. I'll put that back on my inhaler. and this will be the opening in the jar. Now I like it quite high. I'm going to put my long letter word. I'm just going to paint a long letter word on the bottom, and I am going to put a little floral from the napkin on here with the Mod Podge, just because I think that just brings it up a notch rather than just the plain jar. So better give this a good little shake. I'm just going to take the lid off of my black because I think there's enough in the lid to actually paint this. And I'm using the tiniest little paintbrush just so that I can go along these lines, just make my circle outline. This is easiest if it doesn't, I don't follow the line exactly. I believe that if this was a clay piece, it would have some irregularities anyway. So what I'm doing is just going around like this. You're done painting for a bit? So it looks like Bethy, oh, she's done painting it. Okay, do you want to go in the bathroom and wash up your hands so that the paint doesn't dry on your fingertips? These are I'll show you the colors that Bethy chose for hers. So she's in the process of making hers, and those are her colors. And I think it's going to look as cute as a button as well. She wants it for her room, I believe. So she's going with her favorite colors, pink and purple. I love that when she comes down to do crafts, she'll take some ideas that I have, but she'll make them her own with her own colors and her own ideas. And yeah, she's a pretty independent crafter, aren't you, Boo?
Yes.
Yes, I am, she says. This is like so easy to do. This is basically 2 coats of chalk paint. This is just the Crafters acrylic from the Dollar Tree. Bethy's done both her colors from the Crafters acrylic from the Dollar Tree. And so that's what I'm doing there. I think I'm going to take, what am I going to put on this? This is the second one. The other one I've done because I wanted to show you what it looked like when it was finished, and I want to be able to work on the top coat of that while this is drying. I'm trying to decide whether I want this one to say home or fly, because the bird's nest is actually a home. I think I'm going to do home.
Home sweet home.
Yeah, home sweet home. So I'm there, home. So that's that. And then I am going to take this paintbrush because it's the one that I love using my Mod Podge with. And I have in this little lid, I have 1/8 of a teaspoon of Mod Podge with 1/8 of a teaspoon of water. Very, very little. And very, very runny, because you don't need it any runnier to get your napkin to stick. I mean, you don't need it any thicker to get your napkin to stick. Very little glue, because you're going to go over it with the Mod Podge when you're done. Now I've cut out this and this, but I think this one right here, just because I like the way that it curves up and around this side of the birdhouse's doorway. So let's get some of this, and I'm going to start right in the middle. Let it soak through so that it sticks down. There, see, it doesn't take much, it's down. And then I'm going to work my way to those outer edges.
Bunny so far without its eyes or mouth has an Easter egg.
And I'm just totally obsessed with Rae Dunn. But the other thing that I'm obsessed with this year, like through in the past maybe 6 months is these napkins and how easy they are and how versatile they are to use for so darn many different things. It's amazing. There. It's all on there. And it's thin, so it's not going to take very long for this to dry. And that paint, so you can see the paint is already starting to dry. And I am going to take the other one that I did, the Chirp, and my Mod Podge. Where did I put my Mod Podge? Do you want to pass me my Mod Podge?
Oh.
Please, and thank you. Thank you, honey. And I've got this one done. I did it last night so that I could let it dry and put the top coat on. So I have my Mod Podge and I'm going to use it. And this is why this works, because it is a water sealer, a water-based sealer. It's a glue and a finish. So you don't have to put anything else over this. Now I won't be opening these jars. So when I found that when I put the lid on, there was a tiny little wee bit of the glass. When I painted them, I painted up like that, but I left the top of the jar to put the lid on. So the last thing I do when I go to put the lid on was I put a little coat of the chalky paint around the rim and put that on there, and that sealed my rim on, because like, remember I said that if you don't wipe everything down, it seals it and you can't get the jar open? I'm forever going to my husband and telling him, you have to open this jar for me. I've glued it shut again. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go all the way around this jar with this Mod Podge. Oh, my light I'm having trouble with my kitchen ceiling light. We're crafting at the kitchen table, and my kitchen ceiling light keeps flicking on and off. I think it's time to put a new ceiling fixture in, because this one just seems to want... What, honey?
We'll check your lighting. Still got pretty good lighting.
I've still got some good lighting. She's checking the camera for me to make sure you can still see this. Yeah, in my last video, I had to keep turning the switch on and off again to get my light to come back on. And it's crazy. I have enough trouble with the light that's coming through the kitchen window. I tend to just come and craft at my kitchen table a lot. I just bring my stuff from my craft room out here because I've got better light out here in the wintertime. And today's one of those days that's slightly overcast again, and I saw a few snowflakes coming down earlier. It almost feels like it's never going to melt and we're never going to get rid of it all. So, but this is the matte finish Mod Podge. I've actually been thinking about, I have so much of it that I haven't bought any new, there's my light back on. Bethy just touched it's a ceiling fan with a light in it. And as the ceiling fan moves, just the tiniest little bit, the light goes out. So something's definitely loose and it's time to replace it. I could use a more modern one anyway. Time to upgrade maybe a little bit. So I'm just going to finish painting this with the Mod Podge. And I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to do the same thing to the other one. By the time I'm done painting this, the other one will be ready for a top layer coat. And I will come back and I'll let you see what they look like when they're done. And I think they will look really cute in my, once I get my, that nail's not gonna fall off, is it? I think it's gonna look really cute in my displays and for little bits of decor around my house. Bethy and I were trying to decide last night whether this called for something on the top, like maybe a bow glued to the top of it or a ribbon or something. I'm not sure yet. I might put something around the top here, around the top of the jar, but I haven't figured out what it's going to be yet. So decisions, and it comes down to the same old thing. Sometimes I have to stop a project at a certain point and live with it for a little while before I can figure out how I want the finishing touch to go. So I'll be back with the reveal. So this is almost dry, and this one's almost dry. This one is dry. This one's getting dry, and this one's almost dry. So there goes my light. Oh, my crazy, crazy light. So I think they turned out as cute as can be. I still haven't decided if I'm putting anything around the top of them, but as a decor piece with some Rae Dunn, or you know, and I've seen these on Pinterest. Now, I was just scrolling through pictures and I saw a picture of a jar done like this. They didn't use the florals on it, on the one that I saw. So I'm not sure exactly what their video was about or what size jars they used. These are the Strubs pickle jars, so they're the short, chubby ones. So to me, they were more like the shape of a birdhouse. So I think these will do until I can find some Rae Dunn birdhouses. I'm not going to hold my breath for very long, hoping that that's going to happen, because I have heard so many people say they just are having a terrible time finding them in Canada. And I'm in the, like I've said before, in the middle of nowhere. I have to drive for at least an hour and a half in any one direction. I can go 5 different directions from here. And an hour and a half is the shortest trip one way to get to someplace where I can look for a birdhouse. So I'm not going to make very many openings. So I don't think that that's going to happen. And this is just going to have to do. And I may find that once I get these done and my other little wooden birdhouses done and I decorate with them, that I don't feel that the birdhouses are an absolute necessity. I would, however, love to find one of the watering cans. I saw a display for a watering can on Pinterest that I thought was absolutely gorgeous, and I do not know how I can duplicate that. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment and share. And if you'd like to see more of my DIYs, my hauls, paper crafting, or planner stuff, then don't forget to subscribe, and when that little bell icon pops up, hit that too, so that YouTube will notify you whenever I upload a new video. So bye-bye for now, everybody, and have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one.